Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
You got Luke.
Luke, we're taking a look at new military technology. Except guns.
Except guns.
Right.
Well, I got things that shoot.
Me too. I have some
Okay.
things like that.
Well, we want to be culturally sensitive.
Exactly. We're
So-
good peoples, so.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get into any of the sweet technology, which some of it is kind of crazy and amazing.
And amazingly crazy.
Amazingly crazy is the technical term. A lot of this falls under DARPA. Can you tell me what that even is? Because I didn't bother looking it up.
So it is the United States Department of Defense responsible for the development of emerging technologies for use by the military. So this agency was created back in February of 1958 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and it was in response to the Soviets launching Sputnik in 1957. And basically everybody was deathly afraid of... I just watched the movie Hidden Figures the other day.
Never heard of it.
The movie Hidden Figures.
Never heard of it.
Okay.
Is it new?
It's a really good movie.
Is it
trust
old?
me. No, it's
Is it
a
a
new
classic?
movie. It's a new
Is it
movie.
a new classic?
Ah, shut up. Hidden Figures, and basically everybody was like deathly afraid that the Russians were going to kill everybody
Yeah.
as soon as they launched Sputnik. So the idea was we needed to make sure that we were taking like universities and corporations and the military and combining forces and just making sure that we were making the best possible technology for our military to respond to the Cold War kind of environment that was developing around that time frame. So
Well done. I thought that you'd maybe say that DARPA is Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
I didn't say that because I didn't have that cut and paste. So
Okay, but that was a lot of good background as
guess
to
what
what's going on there.
Guess what their budget is, and don't look at my screen. For 2019.
For
And
2019?
This is 1 year's budget. Guess.
$6 billion.
No, you're high. You're really
am I high?
Yeah, so it is $3.427 billion
That's still a lot of money.
for a single year.
That's a lot of research going down.
And the crazy thing is
Because they're not making stuff really,
No.
right? It's all research.
this is them working with companies like
man.
Northrop Grumman and Boeing and all these defense contractors. We talked about a bunch of them the other day. And the idea is they give them grant money to do this research to develop whatever they think they need next.
So they're doing $3.5 billion worth of research and prototyping, like no manufacturing, basically. That's nuts.
Stuff that's going to get thrown away whenever the project's done. Like one I heard about was they were making tanks, and it didn't make my list, so I'll mention it now. So they gave, I think it may have been Northrop Grumman, all they had to make was 12 light tanks.
Oh, I've seen those, yes.
And they gave them like millions of dollars. And these were tanks were just prototypes. They were probably going to get, trashed whenever they were done. So
Yeah, I had something about the light tanks, but it was really light.
I see what you did there.
But really, they were kind of not that interesting
Yeah.
compared to a lot of the technology.
Yeah.
Like they're much more agile. They can go different places because of their weight, things like
Yeah,
that. But
they're fast.
They were
basically.
faster. Yep. But I didn't think they were
But that's
that
an
interesting.
example of they make 12, they're just prototypes, see if they like them. Then if they do like them, then they get military contracts. So this is
Right.
just for research. There's a whole nother billions and billions of dollars that actually would then go buy this stuff.
That's amazing. All right, so let's talk about a few of the amazing things that
And
are
I think
being worked on.
This is just going to be a big list
Oh,
today,
this is all
right?
the lists. I would rate them top 10, but I mean,
It's going to be too difficult.
yeah, it would be too much work. So I'm going to go first. Is that okay?
Shoot.
Did you see the self-steering bullets?
I did.
For an episode that's not covering guns, let's talk about self-steering bullets. So I said no guns. That's great, but this is really cool. So they're 50 caliber bullets that are just like
They're big.
filled up with a bunch of sensors, which, that sounds expensive to me, but that's okay. They have $3.5 billion to make the prototypes. So it's still under development, and somehow you shoot this 50 caliber bullet and it can rapidly change course midair. Now, DARPA isn't telling anybody exactly how it changes paths, but it does.
Yeah.
So basically, even if I was shooting this thing, other than blowing my entire body off, I'd be able to shoot something. The quote was something like, even a mediocre shooter would have sniper-like accuracy, something like
So
this.
the thing I like most about this project is the name of it.
What is
it? It's Extreme Accuracy Task Ordnance Exacto. How cool is that? I think so. Like what DARPA does is they create these
acronyms.
They create awesome acronyms. They create these projects, and then basically different agencies and organizations, they kind of bid to work on that project.
Right.
So this was Project Exacto.
And by different groups bid, I'm getting the feeling it's about 5.
It is, but surprisingly, I actually found a lot of, I'll say like no-name companies, like you've never heard of them before, but they have some kind of specialization.
Yeah, I think in this kind of field too, where it's not like you're making me a new gun or you're making a new something. It's like really cutting edge stuff that normal people probably haven't even heard of or considered.
And some of it is really related to, and I didn't put it on my list at all, I don't know if you did, but a lot of this is related to just computing.
Yeah.
And I didn't list it because I think that,
I thought it was boring, so I didn't.
I did too. But the idea that they need to communicate faster and they need processors, and I saw something about like quantum processing for telecommunications so that they can like communicate faster.
So that's a whole thing people could go look up on their own, because I didn't include it either because I saw the word quantum and I was like, well, I obviously won't have any valuable input on this. But it is all about the size of the computing units and the speed and just like real-time communications over huge distances. It's unbelievable.
Did you ever watch Quantum Leap?
I did. What was the character's name?
I forget.
Yeah, I liked Quantum Leap.
It was a good show.
Yeah, it was good. Okay. Oh, one more thing before we move on.
Shoot.
That was good.
It's going to happen all day.
This really reminded me of our World War II episode where they were trying to have the gun that shot around corners. That's kind of what I thought about.
I actually saw one that they had, and as much as we're going to try not to talk about guns, I guess we're going to talk about guns. They actually have one that basically it's a pistol at the end of it, and the barrel just bends, and the optics allow you to see around it. So the thing with this one, I can't remember the name of it, but the idea was you could put any pistol in it, and then that way it was kind of like modular, and then just the optics work around the corner.
Interesting.
Can I do one?
Yeah, go for it.
So this next one, this is vertical liftoff aircraft to replace helicopter to replace the Black Hawk. So that's a real fancy way of saying helicopter, vertical liftoff aircraft, and the Army specifically has a project going on right now where they need to replace the Black Hawks, and the Black Hawks are good. They're fast. They're all these things. But if you think about just technology in general, I mean, they've been around for ages. I mean, the movie Black Hawk Down is probably 20 years old, and the Black Hawk, so
it's been a while.
I don't even know when the Black Hawk helicopter, came out. So there's two in particular. One is a joint project between Boeing and Swarovski. Not the people that make crystals at the mall. Yeah, not the people that make the crystals at the mall.
Like
Swarovski.
They're pretty.
It's called the SB-1 Defiant. These things always have cool names. And this thing has a compound blade. So imagine two blades like a cake on top of one another. And one blade spins one way and one blade spins the other way, and that's what does, obviously, the lift. And then there's a blade at the back that's perpendicular that drives it. This thing can go theoretically 290 miles an hour horizontally.
I'd be the person that passes out in the seat there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
And then Bell helicopters, they have something called the V-280 Valor, and this is the one you've seen in a lot of like video games, and I think there's versions of this that are maybe bigger, and there's two separate propellers. So imagine there's a beam going across, and there's two separate vertical propellers, and they can work independently. But this thing is meant to be, something for the Army to use specifically to get people in and out of, war zones.
Would you rather own your own helicopter or airplane?
The type of travel I do, probably a helicopter.
Yeah, I think that's what I would want.
Yeah, because I'd like go to like Trader Joe's, the mall.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do a lot of international travel, and
fair.
I think a plane wouldn't do much for me.
I'm with you. I saw something else about these great replacements, and they had some aircrafts as well, but it was titled something like turning all of our warships into aircraft carriers. So things like this could then just take off. They wouldn't need that big runway for landing and taking off. And so it would make the rest of our warships much more dynamic, we'll say. Very cool. All right, let's take a break before we move on. We're going to have to start moving through this list a little faster.
Yeah, we are,
but let's take a break for a word from our sponsor.
I have to assume it's DARPA. I feel like they're listening right now.
DARPA for sure is listening, and I am thanking them for sponsoring us. We're actually doing some research for them. No, we can't do that. They would never trust us. No. We don't have a sponsor, but we do have some shout-outs.
Sweet. Who do we got?
We got Burke B. Burke, B-I-R-K. Is that Burke?
I'm guessing Burke.
Asking if we can do an episode on naval architecture. I don't know what, belly buttons are all about. Get it, naval?
No. Oh, I get it.
I don't really know what naval architecture is.
I think it's just how do you build ships.
Yeah, maybe. REY is back. Ari was listening to us and wanted to let us know that he also supports that state school versus good schools that you were talking about, because he said that he goes to a state-ish school and one of his fellow co-workers or interns, I can't remember which, sorry, Ari, goes to a good school. And I'm saying good school meaning expensive.
Yeah.
And it turns out other guy is all about theory and not really all about getting work done. And so that's kind of interesting. So I think you were dead on there.
I feel like people should just listen to me all the time.
Yeah. He also backed me up on my, just go be an Emmy. Don't worry about being a Nukie.
Yeah.
And his boss said the same thing. Like, all the Nukie jobs that don't get filled by Emmys. So don't waste your time. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we really had some vindication going on there. So I appreciate it.
I like that.
All right. So if any of you have any, good feedback for us or topics you want us to cover, anything else, email us. Subscribe. Email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. Yeah, but also subscribe and give us a review. I haven't checked in a while, but I bet we're up to 42,000 by now.
I'm assuming all 5s.
Yeah. If you want some stickers, email us, and I'll eventually get them out to you.
I'm assuming we're so good they had to add 6 stars to just our stuff.
I think they did. All right, moving on.
Moving on.
Okay, next. Did you see the Unmanned Submarine Hunter?
I did.
You did? How did you see everything? So this is called the ACUV, A-C-U-V, Anti-Submarine Warfare Continuous Trail Unmanned Vessel. They like their words.
They do.
Or better known as Sea Hunter.
That sounds like a movie.
It does, and it would be a sweet movie, I'm sure. I think Steven Seagal would be in Sea Hunter. Like young one, not current.
Not old chubby
Steven Seagal. Is he
Steven
still alive?
Seagal. Yeah, he is.
Okay, well, that's good for him. So it's a water-based drone, because everybody loves drones, that can hunt submarines for months at a time without anyone having to, change watch or, come up for water and air and all. Come up for water? Come up from the water for air, things like that, because it's just a drone going around. So all you need is people and some station somewhere, checking things out, which is awesome. It's equipped with sonar and radar and some synthetic vision systems, and it can just go through narrow waterways. It's really going to change the whole creeping on other people's subs game.
And I think the reason why this one was so important is so submarines have become so hard to detect with the different technologies they're doing. I mean, literally, over here in the Allegheny or the Mon, my guess is we got the Russians.
Well, we have that one sub that sits outside the Science Center.
That one definitely is detectable.
It's for sure
It's sticking up about 30 feet. But submarines are so good at, masking their signal and, the way their propellers are designed. They're not creating any kind of cavitation whenever they move. They're nuclear, so there's no, big, huge move. I mean, they're just amazingly quiet. So
back in the day when I was more in touch with the submarine world, it was almost I don't want to say a joke for the U.S. Navy that they would be able to just tail Russian and Chinese subs without them knowing about it and just follow them, because in comparison, those submarines were so noisy that we'd be able to pick them up and just tail them, but they wouldn't even know that we were following them. But that being said, the Russian submarines were always able to go far, far deeper than the U.S. ones, and I believe it's because they use titanium for welding, and so it could just hold together a lot better than
Interesting.
Ours. So last thing about those subs, Raytheon delivered the sonar, and then Leidos made the boat itself, and it's actually going through trials now.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you got? Hit me.
The satellite melter.
Oh, I love the satellite melter. This one's so cool.
This one's pretty slick. So basically, DARPA funded a program in partnership with Northrop Grumman and Raytheon, and the idea was, we want to go up and take out our bad guys' satellites. So whenever we're at war, everybody's using satellite communications nowadays. So how can we, jam their communications? How can we eliminate that? So what they've done is they're in the process of, kind of the theory is, design these satellites, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to use mirrors, and they're going to reflect sunlight onto these other satellites. So they'll probably kind of hide behind them so they can't tell they're there, and they're just going to overheat them to the point where all their internal systems just basically fry, and the satellite crashes to Earth.
And just to put everyone at ease, this isn't like some laser beam that they're going to then shoot us with. It's going to take a long time to then overheat these other satellites. But how nasty is that?
Yeah.
That's like a real aggressive thing to do.
I like it.
You could totally wipe out someone's communication and whatnot.
I like it. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's pretty neat, kind of creative.
If you can disrupt communications, I mean, that's probably one of the most effective things you can do to, if you're at war, to disable your enemy.
Yeah,
so
the satellite-to-satellite combat launches in 2021. Get it?
Interesting.
It launches. Satellite launch.
You're full of the puns and quips today.
A lot of dad jokes going on today. All right, how about laser cannons?
Pow, pow.
No,
I'm sorry. Pew, pew, pew. Sorry, wrong one.
There you go. Laser cannons. So they're testing the laser weapon system aboard the USS Ponce. Do you think that's like Ponce de Leon?
Oh, I'm sure it's Ponce de Leon.
Yeah, so it's in the Persian Gulf. All that went well. And so what it's going to be doing is blowing up, frying, zapping smaller attack boats, as well as drones, because drones are becoming, the new war, which is good, I guess. We don't want people getting fried, so drones getting fried is good. So on land, Boeing is actually working on a truck-mounted laser that are going to be able to blow up drones, as well as mortar shells that would be coming their direction. And Lockheed is also working on some railgun technology. And the good thing about this is that it's super cost-effective, or cost-efficient. So not so much building the railguns and things like that, but the fuel isn't a bullet or a missile or whatever that gets disposed of. It's just the cost of creating that energy, which really isn't all that much. So it's really cool.
I'm sure you don't know this question, but I'm going to ask you anyways to embarrass you.
I don't know the answer.
Are lasers that they shoot to kill people that they're developing right now, like the ones you just mentioned, are these like lasers like you see in movies where you can physically see the laser? And
it is not like Star Wars.
Like you can't see the lasers. I don't believe
so. No.
How dangerous could that be? Like, what if you're just just walking and all of a sudden you get cut in half?
I'm not sure that's how it works.
Like, how do you know if it's shooting other than
unless you have a stormtrooper to have their colored laser? Yeah, I don't think you can see them.
So you can't physically see these lasers we're talking about.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that, even though I'm now quoted on that.
Okay.
All right, moving on. What do you have next?
This next one is human universal load carriers, or again, I love the names.
Oh, goodness.
Hulk.
Oh, that's a good one.
With a C, not with a K.
Trademark.
Exactly. So basically, in this version that I'm talking about, it's a hydraulic-powered one. I'm sure that there's all kinds of different variations of this that are not hydraulic. It's probably more like servos and electronics and that sort of stuff.
Servos.
But essentially, this is an exoskeleton that someone would wear, and it would reduce muscle fatigue. They could lift things that were way heavier. I mean, I can lift a lot compared to you, but even you could get close to lifting what I could lift
without one.
If you were wearing,
if I was wearing one and you were not, I'd almost be able to lift as much.
Be able to lift what I lift. And the idea is, if you think about what our military does and what they put their bodies through. I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about what the Navy SEALs do in their. It's crazy. Guys are breaking legs from carrying boats over their heads and during training. I mean, it's just. So if you could wear something that would prevent injury, you could go, longer and harder on the battlefield. You could.
Basically Avatar. That military guy was in that big walker robot.
Yeah. But these things are super small and like you don't
sleek.
notice them. They're sleek. Well, now you do. Yeah. The idea is you wouldn't eventually.
Along those same lines, did you see the robot Exoskeleton that is for a much nicer purpose, I would say? So not only would you be able to carry more, probably, but the Defense Department created this wearable robot that enables paraplegics to walk.
I did see
which
that.
is awesome. And so I guess this was all positioned as like military vets and things like that, but it would be available for anyone. And it's actually being tested in 10 of the leading rehab facilities across the United States. And it's designed by Exobionics. So again, like you said, kind of one of those unheard of maybe companies or lesser known ones, but they're very specialized in this. Currently, it costs just a mere $150,000. But that's a start, right?
Insurance will cover that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But hopefully they can bring that price down and make it more, in reach for everyone. But I thought that was very nice that they have that going on. Okay, what else do you have for me, Luke?
So the next one I got, and this one is not a weapon, or so again, going to helping soldiers when they're in the field. These are implantable health trackers.
Ooh.
So the idea is if they're getting dehydrated, or if they're having some kind of medical issue, imagine if you had these. They're implantable, and supposedly they're going to last somewhere, I think it's at like 2 years. They go under the skin, and they measure different biomarkers like, oxygen, glucose, lactate, ion levels, all these different things in your body to realize the health of people out in the field. And you'd be like, oh, hey, James, you're literally...
Go drink some water.
Go drink some water. I mean, and when you think about that, like if you watch any kind of cool military tech video or movie, they always have like someone like back at the station being like, oh, you got to watch your levels, blah, 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 blah. And they can see all their like heart rate and, all that sort of stuff. So this is kind of like super futuristic stuff.
This is going to sound weird, but if you haven't already, go check out our dairy farming episode. Because
very similar.
Yeah, we totally talk about how they're putting things into cows so that they can track all of their levels. They can preemptively strike if the cow is getting sick so it doesn't contaminate the others, or so that they can treat it.
Yeah.
And it seems very similar to this.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go on to some more amazing stuff, let's take a break for this week's Luke's Rant.
So I'm keeping this directly related to military tech.
Okay.
And these are all of those videos of those robots that can run and jump and open doors. They look like dogs, or they look like people.
Who is it? Boston Dynamics?
Boston Dynamics, and they are so...
No, Boston Scientific. Is that it?
No, it's Dynamics,
Is it Boston Dynamics?
I think. But they are so incredibly menacing when you look at these things. And I get that, they're prototypes and... they don't have any cladding on them to kind of make them a little more appealing. But if I'm making a robot, I don't want this robot to scare the bejesus out of everybody that it's going to interact with. And the problem, like put a smiley face on it or something like that. Why do they have to be so incredibly scary?
Roboy has a smile, remember? Roboy's for learning and...
Like, I want to hug Roboy.
Yeah,
like when I've seen Roboy,
You're not allowed to, I don't think.
No.
But you're right. I'm with you that they're creepy
so intimidating.
And some, I don't want to say hillbilly, but hillbilly's gonna see that walking down the road someday
and shoot it.
Blammo. Yeah,
and next
things
thing
are gonna go bad.
It's gonna fight back, and next thing you know, Cyberdyne Systems is gonna become aware, and we're all dead.
This is bad news. I think you're onto something here, Luke. All right, moving on. Hypersonic missiles. Thank you. They fly 5 times the speed of sound, so this is basically making it impossible for ballistic missiles to intercept them because they're just moving so quickly. The US, Russia, and China are all working on these, and it apparently is the case that the US is behind right now.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that the US is looking at the use of new materials to withstand the heat from the air friction because they're moving so fast that they're heating up too much that we don't really have a material that can hold up to this speed right now. And I think carbon fibers is something that is being looked at to help with that.
Yeah.
But how cool is that? 5 times the speed of sound? Just imagine if you had that mixed with the self-moving guiding bullets that they have going on.
That'd be pretty.
What?
Be crazy.
It would be crazy town. All right, moving on.
Super Soldier Vision. So
I saw something about this, and Go ahead. We'll see.
There's two examples of this that I've seen. The first example is the U.S. military. I don't know if it was the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever it is. One of them purchased like 100,000 HoloLenses off of Microsoft. And
a big deal.
And the idea is, imagine you're in a tank, right?
I'm imagining. Okay,
so
my eyes are closed.
Well, no, they got to be open. You're driving the tank.
Oh, okay.
Or you're pointing the gun for the tank. But you're in a tank. A tank is covered by metal, right? Well, imagine if you were in a tank and you could wear a HoloLens, and when you look through the HoloLens, you could see through the tank because
that's a good
you could have a
idea.
camera system set up connected to the tank that would allow you to essentially see everything outside the tank other than like the little
Boy, I should have been able to
viewfinder.
think of that.
How cool
Gosh.
is so that's like
Is that
one
what it is? Is there just like a little hole in tanks and that's how you see out?
I
Or do they have
imagine.
periscopes like submarines?
I'm sure they got something.
Yeah,
But
it's
imagine like you were in a tank and when you looked around, you could see everything behind you and around
Yeah.
you because the augmented reality displays live what is like the 360 parking that cars do nowadays. Imagine that, but you're in a tank and you're wearing a HoloLens. So
Kids,
crazy
keep playing
cool.
your video games because that's where it's at.
No kidding. And then the other thing too, they thought was they would be heads-up displays for like infantrymen. So you're in the field, you could actually see where other, folks are, like other soldiers that are wearing this, and that's a good guy, that's a bad guy, pew pew, kind of thing, and give you all kinds of feedback on what's happening and reports. So so that's like the
cool.
HoloLens. Like you got to wear it. Or you got to integrate it into a helmet, which is more than likely what they would do. Because you wouldn't just run around with a HoloLens on your head.
I saw some that could be in like almost like Oakley's.
Yeah.
And Oakley probably is involved in it, but because they're big in the military.
Very big. Now you take this a step further. The second thing I saw, it was a contact lens that you wear and this one I don't
Innovega Ioptic contact.
No
lens.
way this thing could actually be anywhere
be
near.
so cool.
But like, where's the battery? How's it connected? How do you get the data to it? I mean, it's just I get the concept is amazing to me.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine this thing is anywhere remotely close to feasible in anyone's lifetime.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like they're saying it could get real-time feeds from satellites, drones that teammates are flying, helmet cams, seeing what other people are seeing because of that. Like it just seems so far out there, like you're saying, to be able to actually happen.
Yeah.
But what do we know? We're not very smart.
I just, that one was interesting to me.
So I have a pretty interesting one that I saw. It starts out not so interesting. So I'm going to call this SpiderMan.
I saw this one. I didn't write it down because I thought it was dumb, but I'm hoping you...
Really? So I thought it was kind of neat. So without ropes and ladders or glue or anything like that, they're able to scale buildings, but with full load, army load on them, combat load, with suction cups. So that's boring. That's a suction cup
super
noise.
boring.
That's super boring. But there's a bunch of other programs out there that are trying to make this a little cooler, and that's by being inspired by the gecko.
Oh, they're
So
little...
instead of Spider-Man, you're Gecko Man.
Nice.
Tiny 5-ounce lizards can carry 9 pounds of weight. So that's 18 times their body weight.
Okay.
And we obviously know they can just scale up anything they want, right? So you assume that they have little suction cups or something, right? But that's not the case. They actually have like millions and millions of tiny little hairs on their soles of their feet. And that's what keeps them in contact, and they basically just pull those off. So they're trying to take advantage of these like mushroom shaped like hairs that they have, and they're just tiny, like 1,000th of a millimeter, to somehow apply this to the military guy so that he can climb using, I don't want to say gecko hair, but basically gecko hair.
I think the picture I saw because I saw it, it was Tom Cruise in one of the Mission Impossibles because he had gloves.
Yeah.
And I think in the movie, like he looked at the glove and it zoomed in really close, and like these little hairs like showed up on his fingertips. So it's
exactly. So I'd be interested to see if that worked.
I think that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, I don't.
You made it sound way better than when I read it.
Oh, thanks.
Maybe
man.
everything I read, I should just do with like your voice.
Do it in my voice. That's how most people want to hear
no,
things.
Never.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Could I do? Let's see. I must have one or two others that are pretty cool. Oh, this one's kind of neat. Thought control weapons. So, did you see this? No?
I didn't.
So DARPA's paying scientists to invent ways to instantly read soldiers' minds using tools like genetic engineering of the human brain, nanotechnology, and infrared beams. So what's the goal? Thought control weapons, Luke.
I'm
which is
saying
pretty
no
cool.
right off the bat because they'll definitely turn that on us.
I'm all about like the genetic engineering and this sort of stuff.
Really?
I mean, I think it's very interesting.
Okay,
I'm not
okay.
sure I'm morally aligned with it, but I
Gotcha.
think the stuff's very cool. So right now there's 6 different teams getting funded for the N3 program, which is next generation non-surgical neurotechnology. So it's just crazy to me, but participants are tasked, meaning the companies are tasked with developing technology that will provide a two-way channel for rapid seamless communication between the human brain and machines without requiring surgery. So you're basically going to be walking down the street and controlling a drone with your brain as you're going, so that you could have like a whole drone army behind you that you're controlling.
What happens if, like, while you're doing this, James, all of a sudden you, like, have, like, a flashback to, like, whenever, like, you were a little kid and your brain goes a different direction and all of a sudden these drones, like, crash into,
My
like,
brother
a
is in
school
a
bus.
bad way if I have one of those flashbacks.
Yeah.
He's going to be getting a drone knocking on his door.
Exactly. I mean, I can't keep a train of thought for more than, what was I saying?
Huh? Yeah.
I can't keep a train of thought for more than like 10 seconds,
I
let
know.
alone control something with my mind to the point where like go there kind of thing.
Professor X. Boom.
That's exactly what
He's
it
going to
is.
be floating around out there.
And he can't even control Gene.
He
You
can't.
saw the Dark Phoenix?
Dark Phoenix is going to be the one that we have to watch out for. All right, so that's the last one that I had to cover. What did you think? Scary?
I'm glad that we have DARPA.
Me too.
I think that making sure that the United States and all of our partner countries are all working together to protect everybody, I think is pretty important.
Yeah.
The budget is bananas.
They could maybe just fund our podcast a little bit,
Seriously.
right?
But yeah, I think it's good work. I think it needs to be done because the last thing you want to be is the number 2 guy in this kind of race. So
I think that's a good way to put it. Hopefully everybody enjoyed some of this coming up military technology. If you didn't like it, well, you can email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com or tough luck. Until next time.
see it.